I hadn't missed a Sunday dinner in 12 years. Not once. Not after working 70-hour weeks. Not after working double shifts during tax season. Not even after that winter when I had such a bad case of the flu I could barely stand. My mother, Patricia, always said I was the dependable daughter. The daughter who remembered birthdays, who made dessert, who was always there. That evening, I drove 40 minutes to my parents' house with the lasagna still warm on the passenger seat. I'd made it myself, the kind Dad Thomas liked with extra cheese and no ricotta. The smell of garlic and basil filled the car like a memory. That smell had always meant home. The porch light was on when I arrived, a pale yellow in the twilight, the kind of light that makes you think someone's waiting for you. I parked outside, careful not to block Jason's spot in the driveway. He was my older brother, and he always got the spot closest to home. I walked upstairs with the warm lasagna in my hands. A familiar rhythm. Left, right. I stopped at the third step because it creaked. I didn't knock right away. I was reaching for the screen door when I heard my name. Julia won't be a problem. She never says no to the family. It was Thomas's voice, calm and confident. I froze. My hand remained hovering near the handle. Inside, voices echoed on the kitchen tiles. My mother, Patricia, sounded strained. But 300,000? That's crazy, Jason. How do you know? Jason snapped. It doesn't matter how. The important thing is that I get this over with before the audit gets too deep. You said you'd help. Then Thomas said calmly, we will. Julia got the promotion. Remember, a senior analyst at that big company. She's probably making around 150,000 now. The plate in my hand didn't move, but something inside me did. I stayed completely still, as if moving would only make things worse. The cold screen door pressed against my arm. The lasagna slowly lost its heat between my fingers. Inside, the conversation continued as if I wasn't there. Jason added, she mentioned something about bonuses. Maybe more than 150. Mum sighed. She works so hard. She always has. There was a moment of silence. Then Patricia's voice dropped, as if convincing herself. We'll say it's for the roof. The house is leaking. We can start there. Maybe 30,000. Then medical bills later. I'll say I need some work done. Jason didn't let her finish. Split it. She'll give it. She always gives. Remember the business loan? 20,000, no questions asked. She never asked for it. Thomas said almost proudly. She gave us her signature bonus. 40,000, just handed it over. Jason laughed. Who does that? She still thinks we're a real family. It's pathetic. Patricia didn't laugh. Her voice came back broken. Don't talk about your sister like that. She's naive, Mum. She thinks bringing a plate of lasagna means something. I couldn't move. I couldn't even blink. I'd seen it so clearly on this balcony, time and time again, my arms full, my heart open, and it never occurred to me that I was being drained. Thomas's voice came back calm. We'll take the orders. Julia can't say no when you're crying. It always works. I don't like lying to her, Patricia said quietly. Jason replied, it's not a lie. It's a family matter. Her money is family money. She doesn't have children, and she doesn't have a husband. What else would she spend it on, anyway? On that apartment. The apartment where I spent everything I owned. The one overlooking the garden with a front door that closes. The only place I ever called home. Thomas said, she'll be fine. Decisive as a judge. She always manages things. That's what she does. Are you sure there's no other way? Patricia asked. Jason's voice dropped. Unless you want me in federal prison for tax evasion and fraud. No, that's all it is. My lawyer says if I can pay it back before they dig deeper, they'll reduce the charge to civil fines. Tax evasion. Fraud. My brother, the one they bragged about to his cousins, his coworkers, and even strangers at the grocery store. He wasn't just struggling financially, he was a criminal, and they were going to make me pay for that. I stepped back slowly from the door, careful not to creak. On the step, my hands were sweating profusely. The plate almost fell. I caught it. No sound. No trace. I couldn't let them know I'd heard. I reached my car without collapsing. It surprised me. My legs felt like they were separated, like I was floating on the pavement. The lasagna remained on my lap like a joke I no longer understood. I didn't drive off immediately. I sat there with the engine off, listening to the occasional faint buzz of summer insects in passing cars. My phone rang in the cup holder. A message from Patricia. Where are you, love? Dinner's ready. I hesitated to type. Then I typed, sorry. Called back to work. Emergency audit. I'll put it off. 3 periods passed. Then came her reply. No, we have something important to discuss. Can it wait? She was about to say it. The ceiling. Just as they'd planned. Sorry, Mom. The manager says it's urgent. I love you. I didn't drive home. Not yet. I just drove. City lights, gas stations, places that didn't know me. I needed to move, not arrive. When I finally reached my apartment garage, the lasagna was cold. I left it on the passenger seat and climbed in empty-handed. Inside, I didn't turn on the lights right away. I stood by the window, watching the night creep through the shadows of the trees, and felt something open up inside me. Not anger, not yet. Just a kind of exhausting clarity. I gave them $40,000 the year I graduated, then lived on instant noodles and cheap coffee until I could save again. I gave Jason $20,000 when his company went bankrupt. I paid for their anniversary dinner when they said they were struggling financially. I didn't ask not a penny from them because I thought that's what girls do, what good sisters do, what family members do. But now I understood something I hadn't understood before. They never saw it as generosity. They saw it as compliance. By bedtime, a plan began to take shape. Quiet, smart. I wasn't going to tell them I knew. Not yet. The next morning, I didn't make coffee. I took action. I sat at my desk and opened all my accounts, checked my savings and investments, even my old retirement account from my first job. I moved all my money into new banks my parents didn't know about. I called all the customer service lines, activated fraud alerts, and froze every shared access point I'd ever used. Then I changed all the passwords, enabled two-step verification, recovery questions, everything. My phone wouldn't stop ringing, Mom, Dad, Jason. I didn't answer. Instead, I emailed my manager, Catherine Richards, and asked if she had a few minutes. The subject line was simple: personal, urgent. Catherine was a smart woman in her 50s. She had no children, but she was as strong as she'd walked through fire in high heels. When I entered her office, she didn't smile, but gestured to the chair. I need advice, I said. Not legal, not yet, just personal, but it might affect my business. She nodded. Go ahead. I told her everything. The conversation I'd overheard, the money I'd paid out over the years, Jason's scam, the plan they'd devised, and my plan to disappear financially. She listened the whole time, arms crossed, her face growing more serious with each paragraph. When I finished, she leaned forward. First, she said, you handle this better than most people. Second, you need a lawyer. Not because you did anything wrong, but because they might try to twist things. Third, you need a record. Every dollar, every order. Document everything. I opened the spreadsheet I'd started working on last night. 5 years of transfers, dates, amounts, notes in the margins, like Jason's emergency and my mother's medical bill. Catherine whistled softly. That's nearly $200,000. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My throat felt tight. Then she looked at me. Her voice was faint now. One more thing. We have a vacancy in our London office. Same job title. Better pay. And most importantly, a sea away from all this mess. London. I repeated. You won't be alone. You'll have support, she said. We'll take care of your visa, your move, everything. I didn't answer. Not yet. But something inside me shifted. That evening, Jason finally got through. I don't know why I answered. Maybe I wanted to hear how he'd explain it. Oh, Julia, where have you been working? He said. In an apartment. In that job you think makes money. What do you mean? It means I'm busy. What do you want? We need to talk like a family. Dinner tomorrow. I can't. I have more important plans than family. I didn't hesitate. The kind of plans people don't have to steal $300,000 from. There was silence on the other end of the line. I don't know what you're talking about, Jason said finally. Tax evasion, fraud. You were going to let me pay for it. He laughed. Very loudly, very affectedly. You were listening. I was going to make lasagna. Remember that family dinner? That thing you said I still naively believe in. He said, Julia, listen. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You planned it. You told them to cry if they wanted. You called me naive. I'm in trouble. You should have thought about that before you broke federal law. Would you really let me go to jail for money you could pay? I closed my eyes. I couldn't pay back the $40,000 I gave my mom and dad. I couldn't pay back the $20,000 I gave you. I couldn't pay back any of it. But I gave it to you because I thought that's what family does. There was a heavy silence, as if he didn't know what to do next. I'm begging you, he said. Then beg someone else. I hung up. The texts started pouring in immediately. From Jason, from my mom, from my dad. I didn't read them. On Wednesday, there was a knock on my office door. It was Patricia. She looked older than I remembered. Her hair was unkempt, and her eyes were red. She didn't wait to be let in. She pushed past security and found me by the elevators. Sophie, Julia, please talk to me. She stood there in the marble lobby of my company, wearing a dark blue blazer and high heels while my mother sobbed like a child. We can talk right here, I said. She flinched. Can't we go somewhere private? Jason's in trouble. I know. Fraud, tax evasion. He told me he made mistakes, but he's your brother. No, he's your son. Help him. We don't have the money. You know that. Then maybe he didn't have to commit a crime. Her voice broke. How can you be so heartless? It's not like you. You're right. The old me would have written the check already. The old me believed love meant sacrifice. The old me believed you when you said family helps family. She looked at me puzzled. What are you saying? I'm saying the old me died on your doorstep. That stopped her. You don't mean it. I leaned closer, my voice low. You said I wouldn't refuse. You said I don't understand how things work in the real world. You said I melt when you cry. Real tears now, not staged ones. Real fear. We were desperate. No, you were greedy. There's a difference. She held out her hand. I stepped back. I left it there in the hallway beneath the gold letters of my company name. I didn't look back. Thursday passed in silence. No calls, no messages, no surprise visits. For a moment, I thought it was all over. Maybe they finally understood. Friday afternoon, I was gathering things from my office when the receptionist called. Julia, there's someone from the legal department downstairs, a process server. He says he has papers for you. I froze, then exhaled slowly. Send them here. He handed me a brown envelope. No eye contact, no words, just a name scrawled and a silent exit. Inside, a formal complaint. My parents were suing me, claiming that the money I'd given them over the years was loans, that I was now demanding repayment, and that I'd caused them emotional distress and financial instability by cutting off contact. It was ridiculous. So ridiculous, in fact, that I just laughed there at my desk. Not a sharp laugh, but a hollow one. The kind of scream you get when denial gives in to exhaustion. They weren't just trying to make me feel guilty, they were trying to punish me. I called the lawyer Catherine had recommended, a woman named Emily Kim. She was efficient and straightforward. I scanned the documents and emailed them. She called back 10 minutes later. They don't have a case, she said. No contracts, no documents, no written agreements, nothing to prove that any of this was a loan. This is clear harassment. Can we respond? I asked. We could sue for damages for emotional distress and defamation. I paused. The thought didn't sit well with me. No, I said, I don't want their money. I just want them to leave. There was a long silence on the line. Then Emily said, understood. I closed the file, put it in a drawer, and locked it securely. At the end of that week, I started packing, not just for a trip to London, but for a life that didn't include people who saw me as nothing more than a checkbook in high heels. The movers were due to arrive on Tuesday. All weekend, I filled boxes with things I thought I'd keep forever. Cookbooks with my mother's handwriting in the margins, framed photos from holidays where I'd taken the pictures. I wrapped them carefully, then left most of them. On Sunday morning, Jason called again. The number was unfamiliar. I answered without thinking. Are you really going to let me go to prison? He said. I'm not going to let you do anything, I replied. You're going to prison because you committed crimes. His voice broke. I might lose everything. I already had. I said, my family, my trust, my belief that you all cared about me as a human being, not just as a resource. He fell silent. I was scared. He said, I didn't know what to do. You planned it. You laughed at him. You trained them to lie to me. I didn't mean to hurt you. You never thought of me. He tried again. Julia, please. I beg you. I already told you. Beg someone else. That was it. I hung up. I blocked the number. No more texts. No more calls. They must have realized the door was locked. On Monday, I stood in the middle of my nearly empty flat and looked around at the life I'd built. Every inch of it I'd earned, every dollar I'd fought for, every piece touched by people who were now strangers to me. I didn't cry. Instead, I packed my last suitcase, locked it tight, and stuck a note on the front door for the movers. London, 2 bedrooms overlooking the river. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Not because everything was fixed, but because I was no longer pretending. I found it at the back of a cupboard, hidden behind old baking trays in a cracked pie dish I no longer used. The lasagna tray, still clean, still heavy, the one I'd carried on Sunday night, full of warmth and hope and cheesiness, believing I was walking toward love. I ran my hand along its edge. It was just glass and metal, but it contained everything. Every dinner I'd made, every time I'd tried, every way they'd drained me and smiled as they did it. I didn't cry. I just picked it up, turned around, and tossed it in the kitchen trash can. It didn't make a sound. With my airport boarding pass in hand, I received one last text from an unknown number, but I knew who it was. Patricia, I'm sorry. Not for needing help, but for the way we planned to get it. You deserved better. I hope you'll forgive us someday. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back. I hope you deserve forgiveness someday. I turned off my phone and walked to my gate. 6 months later, the letter arrived via my lawyer. Jason had been sentenced to 18 months in federal prison for tax evasion, wire fraud, and attempting to conceal assets. My parents sold their house to help cover his legal fees. They'd lost most of it anyway. They were now living with my aunt in Florida. I didn't feel satisfied. Not guilty, not even angry. They were just names now. People I'd known in a life I no longer lived. In London, the sky was constantly changing gray, then silver, then kind of warm. I had a corner flat with old brick walls and a view of the river. I made friends, good friends, colleagues who valued me for more than just my signature on a check. On some quiet Sunday mornings, I'd still make lasagna just for myself. Not because I missed them, but because I remembered the girl who believed that bringing food was bringing love. The girl who carried her heart in a ceramic dish and left it on their doorstep again and again, hoping they'd return it to her undamaged someday. She's gone now. In her place stands someone else. Someone who knows that love without respect is nothing but religion in disguise. Someone who understands that leaving isn't surrender. It's remembering who you are. And sometimes the only person who's truly there for you is yourself. I used to think that simply being there was enough. If I kept agreeing, giving, and making food, paying the bills, they finally saw me as more than just what I could offer. But some people only like you as long as you're useful. The moment you stop giving, you cease to exist. I didn't leave to punish them. I left to protect what was left of me.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है। अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सुहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना बहुत ही दर्द भरता है। मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं। तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं। कहाँ जाऊँ कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू। मेरी रूह का मकां तू। लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था। वफा की इस कहानी में फकत एक गम ही लिखा था। सितारों से भी पूछता है पता तेरा कहाँ होगा। मगर खामोश है दुनिया कहाँ मेरा जहाँ होगा। बस एक बार मुड़ के देख ले मेरी बेबसी की सूरत। मुझे है आज भी तेरी वफा की सख्त जरूरत। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। दर्द का असर।